Everything can be exciting or opportunity or a shiny object or a bad, it could be positive or negative. Stay out of those variances, stay on the course you already decided, have some conviction, and just stay there. You can't chase everything, positive or negative.
Welcome to the Grant Wise Show. This podcast helps ordinary real estate agents build extraordinary companies. Let's grow in 3, 2. What's up, everybody? Grant Wise here. Welcome back to the Grant Wise Show. Excited for my guest today. I've got the Chief Operating Officer of the Whissel Realty Group, Chris VanderValk. The Whissel Group is the #1 team at EXP by volume right now, definitely in the United States, maybe in the world. Chris, man, thanks so much for spending some time. We were talking for like 20 minutes before I finally hit the record button, so we're going to have to make up some of the value in this conversation. I appreciate you spending some time with me.
Hell yeah, man. I'm excited to be here and excited to be on the Grant Wise Show. I've watched a couple episodes. We got a special guest, it looks like, because we don't have Blur on. Yeah, excited to be here.
Love it, dude. So tell us your story. How did you get to where you are today with Whissel?
Yeah, so I mean, my story is probably longer than the podcast. We'll focus on the real estate side, but there's been a lot to develop, kind of how I've gotten here today. But in real estate specifically, I've been in real estate since 2017. I got into real estate. It was the first kind of big boy job. I had one corporate stop after the military. I did it as a military admissions advisor for a publicly traded company. And I realized it was you're selling stuff people didn't want and you're trying to convince them of it. And it just didn't sit right with me. I was like, you're trying to convince people that, hey, if you go sign up for an online university, you won't work at McDonald's anymore and you're going to be successful. And I'm like, I don't really subscribe to that. And so I can't sell things I don't believe I'm helping people. And so I did that. The money was good. I actually got into wanting to invest in real estate. The neighbor's house came up for sale. I was making decent money. And I said, I'll invest in real estate. So I called up a buddy of mine that I knew was in real estate in Minnesota at the time. And I said, hey, what do I need to do? I want to invest in and buy this house. And it's for sale by owner. I don't really know what that means, but I want to buy this house. And he said, actually, I have a team. I have an expansion team down in the Chicago market where you live. I'll connect you guys and Karen can help you. And so I connected with this lady. We talked and she's like, you're good, man. You're smart. I'm not going to help you buy this house. You're going to get a license and you can buy this or another one, but I won't help you. I was like, okay. And so she said, actually, I'm thinking we're expanding our team. Maybe you come work here. And she said, between me, you and a fence post, I'm leaving. If you got your license, like this expansion team, you could kind of come in and start to drive it. I'm going to go to the mortgage side. So we talked for a couple of weeks and then she was like, actually, you know what? I'd be doing a disservice. There's this guy I used to work with at Berkshire. He runs a big REO team. He's looking to get into the inside sales model in traditional real estate. You're doing inside sales for this college now. I want to introduce you to. Like, I think it's actually a really good business match for you two to meet. That was one of the best things anyone's ever done for me. So I started working with him and built an inside sales team from the ground up. I had no idea what I was doing. Started following people like Tim Heil and Lance Loken and talking to a bunch of the Keller Williams world people, getting to know people. And way before Ben Kinney was this big, there's a guy named Leo I got to know really well, was running his team, and just started to meet all these power players and back in that time and learn the inside sales model. And so from there, I just kind of worked my way up. Got my license, became an agent, started GMing a little bit more role in the team, setting up structure. And we grew up pretty rapidly over the years. I think 300% in about 2 years there. And that was fun. I got, like anyone would do, I said, I don't need to be on a team. I'm going to build my own. And so I branched off in early 2018. In March, started my own team. It was just me. I got a buyer's agent. And then I got a near fatal motorcycle accident, hit by a car in June. And lost it all, everything I put into it, all my business. Some people helped me close some deals that were open. And I didn't end up recovering fully until about January of 2019. And at that point, I was like, well, I don't have any pipeline as anything. If you stop shutting it off for 5-6 months, you're not lead genning. I can't expect partnered people to come in, and I didn't have enough leverage. So I was like, well, I'm at square one again. I can go start my team here in Chicago. It's cold. I loved San Diego. So I said, screw this. I'm going to San Diego. I was like, it's a great market, great price point. I'm starting from scratch anyway. I'm going to go to San Diego. So I did. I was working for a company here, and I saw this application or a job posted on Indeed for a team that wanted to do 1,000 transactions in a year. I happened to want to go to a coffee shop in the area. I didn't take it seriously. I said, yeah, right. 1,000 units in San Diego. I'm doing the volume math on it. I I'm looking on Zillow. I'm not seeing any teams that are producing that much. So I'm like, and then I looked up the team leader which was Kyle. And I'm like, you're not near 1,000 right now. So I was like, okay, I got to go to this thing. It's a group interview. This has to be interesting. So I went to the morning one, and they pitched this iBuyer thing, which I've never heard about iBuying. And anyway, I was like, this is interesting. So I went into more of a joke. Then I was like, actually, I can get an admin position. I'll make a little money. I'll stack up a little money, buy leads, and I'm going to break off. I'll build my own team here. I'll use it so I can go cash flow positive. But then I got the interview. And I was like, this guy's for real. Like, he's a real deal. Like, he knows his stuff. He's got a good structure, nice office. There's some really talented people on this team. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back for the acquisitions position. I found out later it was Zillow offers. I said, I'm going back for the night interview for the position I actually want, which is to lead their acquisitions team. And I came back that night for a second interview, and they hired me a week later. And the rest is history. From there, I worked my way up over the team, saw some opportunities as we exited Zillow offers. Basically went to Kyle and said, hey, I want to stay. I don't want to build my own team anymore, but here's my experience. Here's what I think I can do and make revenue changes and optimization changes for the company. And Kyle took a shot on me and let me take that senior position. And over the years, I've worked my way up to COO.
That's awesome, man. That's an incredible story. I didn't realize, I guess I'd never heard like how you and Kyle started working together.
Yeah, I had no idea who Kyle was, honestly. I think that was kind of probably part of the magic of it. Is a lot of people in this interview were enamored by it. And I thought, you got to really know me, and those that watch it probably don't. Like, I don't look up to really. I look up to Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk. There's a small list of self-made people. I self-made lightly. I mean, a lot of people contribute to their success. But Jeff Bezos' dad was an immigrant, and Elon Musk is South African. Sure, they have a lot of help along the way, but I think there's a miraculous that people are self-made. And so anyway, some guy on a podcast or whatever, like, I'm not losing my mind over it. I respect it, but I'm not one. I don't get celebrity shock or any of that. Like, that's just not me. I'm just in my own lane a little bit too much, probably. But nevertheless, everyone was enamored by this Kyle guy. I was like, what is going on? Like, there's a celebrity effect in real estate. And so I think it worked to my advantage because I was always able to look at Kyle very level-eyed of just like, hey, I think you're really smart. Like, it's very cool what you've built here. Like, it was just always a neutral lens for me, which I think allowed me to come in and just be a lot more objective than some of the other people applying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you get around Kyle, you can't help but like him. I remember the first time I saw him speak at an Inman event, he had me like rolling in the green room because I was a couple of speakers after him. And he came out and he took the stage and he started saying his thing and cussing and walking around. He had his sneakers on. I was just like, this guy's it. He's pretty funny to be around.
100%. And we were matched like really rapidly. Like, Kyle is we're so similar in the effect of I think just respect for hard work and just grit and just like, let's just get it done. And Kyle's always had that personality. It's been consistent. And that's the cloth I'm from, is just like, just do the thing and do it in an integrous way and work hard and you'll be rewarded. And Kyle's very much of that mindset. So day one, it was really a match for us. And luckily some people in the company advocated for me before I met him. And I'll never forget, I got that video. He offered me the job and I was like, oh, I was so pumped because, you make it out here. You're like, I'm trying to make it. It was a cool moment for me of not wanting to build my own team anymore so rapidly. And just like, I think I can come in here and be a key player, which was always my mantra. Like, maybe, even at the team in Chicago, it was always like, I had buddies that came up around the same time in real estate and they were building their own team, or even, and most of them are still solo agents today. There's like, Chris, you're so smart, or you're good at lead gen, or you're good at calls, or you're good in the appointments. Like, why don't you just do it solo? And my mindset was always like, if I can be a contributor of something that's doing so much bigger, and I can leverage people and get leverage back, and I can help them leverage through me. Like, it's just such a winning environment. I've always thought the team structure made so much sense versus the solo agent. And like I said, most of those guys that I'm still friends with today, but they're still doing solo business. I'm sure they're happy and they're doing great. They're fulfilled by it. But yeah, I love the opportunity to be in a bigger element, bigger, organization, have a lot of people contributing, and it's led to some great things. Now we're, like I said, doing good volume and we're having success.
So talk to me about that. When we were talking pre-show, you came in and you made some strategic adjustments to the organization within the last several years. And currently it's put you in a position where you're number one in volume. Maybe you'd like to be number one in a couple other categories, and I'm sure you're on your way. But walk us through this. Like, how do you get to be number one? What were some of the changes that you made that have been instrumental?
Yeah, so from volume, I think obviously price appreciation in San Diego, not to give that away and say that's the only reason, because it's not. But I think volume is subjective. You'll never hear me talk, and you heard me in the pre, like, it's cool. Like, it's good for the team. It's good for the agents. Good for the ad. Like, let's get a win, right? Like, that's cool. And so we'll celebrate it, and we are. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like at the end of the day, units is the equalizer to me, coming from a lower price point in Chicago. So I've always internally talking, especially to our leadership and our admin and even agents, like units. So how do we do that? Like we put expectations really early. We did a lot of turnaround stuff at the beginning. When we started working together, there was a very old guard mindset. Kyle built this thing into a very successful top team, number one in San Diego for many years before I was ever around. And the team had a propensity for success way before. But it was this cohort that was very gridlocked a little bit on what they did and how they did it. And so I was kind of new coming out of left field and like, okay, this works for 15 to 20 people, but this doesn't work for 300 people or 200 people. Like it's not scalable. And so we, Kyle and I and other leadership team members really started to work on what's scalable. And if it's not scalable, it's not a good idea. Like that's kind of the end all be all. We have to think about having 200 agents, 300, like that's how we have to operate. If it won't work for that, it doesn't work now, even if it will. And so we always operated that way. And so we started to reverse engineer everything. One of the first things we focused on, I credit Mike Shum, our coach at the time, was like focusing and honing on productivity per agent. And so we looked at that and said, holy shit, we're at like 4.6 units per agent on our team. I think was the blended average. So we had a lot of people not doing anything. And then we had, like I said, that group of 15 that were really doing most of our volume. But then when you looked at that unit count of who's doing it, at the time we had a cap model. And so we had caps on all of our agents. And so after a certain amount of revenue, we all know how the cap model works, we stopped receiving money. The problem is Kyle is such a good leader and most people don't get exposed to what he does internal. Kyle wants to give the world to the agents. Actually, I joke all the time when I'm debating internally on how we do things is, Kyle, we're too nice to agents. Like you're the best team leader in the world. We've got to roll it back. Otherwise, we don't make enough revenue internal as a company to keep that we can keep pouring into the agents the way you want to. So either we have to do one of two things. Let's keep the cap model and let's stop rolling in, because after in our market, you get a caps like 3 transactions at most because the sales price is so high. So it's like either we stop contributing, we just do a growth model of agent count and we stop contributing to agents because we don't make enough money off of them. Like after they cap, why are we still investing? At some point you lose your investment if you roll all your money back into the person. I love your mindset and I love your model. Let's help the agent. Let's contribute more for them. Let's take stuff off their plate. Let's make life easier. I love that model, but we have to change how we're commissioned on it. If you want me to keep pouring into you, I need you to keep pouring into the overall contribution bucket that we're pouring back into you. And so I said, we have to have a pivotal shift at removing caps. And so we did. And we were able to, at the time, we didn't want to lose anyone. And one of the proudest, I think I told you in pre-show, proudest accomplishment is not the number one in volume right now in the US. It actually is, we've never lost an agent in 4+ years I've been here that we didn't want to lose. I've had people quit. We fire about 60%, 40 to 60, depending on the month of people we hire. We always are cutting people. And so, but we've never lost anyone we didn't want to. That goes for better, greener grass situations. Never happened. And part of that was Kyle's legacy advice of like, hey, let's maybe grandfather in this group. We can't just change the whole thing or people are going to leave. And I was like, that's a really bright idea. Like, yeah, people will. So we grandfathered everyone into our old model that had been here for a while and said, this day forward, any new recruits we're bringing in, this is the new model. Hey, old guard, we're giving you this as permission or as respect to helping us get here. But I need you to keep your mouth shut, please. It's not a true NDA, but respectfully, we're going to recruit out of this model because we want to keep investing in you guys and them. And we're going to recruit heavily, and we're going to recruit out of this financial model, and we're going to put everyone else in this no cap model. And we did that. For the next 2 years, we recruited. We hired a great recruiter. We grew our numbers, and everything started to happen. And then we said, oh, shoot, people don't like paying our splits after they're independently successful. What do we do? And so at a great leadership team we created a graduated splits model. And so as you're here and you hit revenue thresholds, you can earn more of your commission back and it's locked in for your career with Whissel. It maxes out. But I think that's the answer that we caused in that turnaround is like, there's always a problem to solve, identify it, ask a lot of questions against it and propose some structures that will solve for it, but not unsolve the problem you already solved. You don't want to work backwards and trip over your own feet. So that's kind of how we did it. We changed the whole revenue model and we increased our gross margin for the company by over 400% from where we started.
That's fantastic. They say that, every new levels, new devils, right? I mean, every time you get to a certain place, you said something I think that was really key. I want to touch on there. You said when you go to, solve new problems, you want to make sure that you don't like undo old problems, right? You don't want to be working backwards. I would imagine that takes an enormous amount of thought and planning and strategy to make sure that you're continuing to grow and not continue to work backwards. I mean, a lot of people probably experience this listening to the show. It's like, okay, I just solved this problem, and now I got this other one, and when I went to try to solve this, now this one's like, how do you change that, or how do you battle that and counteract that with so many agents on the team?
Yeah, I think in anything, and this is something that Kyle and I talk about a lot, and my directors that I have working with me, that they're phenomenal. We talk about a lot is like there's 5 whys. There's a really good Harvard Business video you can attach this afterwards, but it's called the 5 whys, and it's really simple strategies that everything has a root cause issue, and there's other issues. So in the example I think of that video, not to butcher it, but it's like, hey, we had a server go down, and a lot of people had an outage in this tech company. Well, why did that happen? Well, because we didn't have enough servers up. Well, why did that happen? Oh, well, because someone wasn't looking at the reporting for knowing when there was overcapacity on the main server. Well, why did that happen? Oh, it's a training issue that person didn't know they were supposed to look there. Well, why did that happen? Well, the onboarding training models are broken. So you just keep working back and you understand, okay, sure, Andy didn't look at this server and catch it. So is Andy a jerk? No. These all things happen in our organization that contributed to this. Let's individually work on and have everyone kind of counteract or work on each thing individually. And then together that will actually solve the root cause issue. I think that's how we go about it, is just looking at it, knowing that there's not one reason something ever happened. Like it just doesn't work that way. And just being conscious about the solutions you go to put in. Are they counteracting what we intended to do in the first place? Not being afraid of asking questions that might make you feel dumb or like be wrong, and not fighting about wrong and right, but just being like, I want right for the greater good, not for my own ego or my own what I want to happen here. I think that's another big part of it.
The 5 whys. It's not just a great solution for solving problems. Do you guys also use this to answer the questions about growth?
Everything. Yeah. I don't think everything's multifaceted. We live in a complex society and a complex world, and humans are complex. So we use it in everything. Like, I mean, why does the buyer not sign with us a VIP? Like, is their values not good enough? Are they really not right? Like, there's always so many reasons and questions. And I've always been a pretty big fanatic and inspired by John Maxwell, and, read any of his books, and everything's about question, question, question. And I think the more curiosity you take to approach, I actually don't think problem solving becomes that hard anymore. Because if you ask enough questions, the dots kind of automatically connect to, if you're looking at it in a holistic way, whether it's a growth problem or it's a people problem or whatever it might be, it's a symptom or a side effect you're analyzing. And you just got to question why it's happening or why it's not happening or why is it happening if you're having great growth? Like, what's the contribution of that?
I want to ask you a question. How do you manage growth in tough times?
What do you mean by managed growth? Do you like manufacture growth?
You've managed to grow your organization in unique ways. And more specifically, we're talking about how you've grown your business's margin in a time where there has been transaction volumes low, there's disruption, there's litigation, there's like 3, 4, 5 different things that have happened over the course of the last 12 to 24 months. But you have seemed to have overcome those challenges, and not, I'm sure, without problems. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff under the hood that people might experience, but how do you manage growth like that in challenging times?
I'm lucky that I like challenging times a lot. Genuinely, I do. Like, I think it's all I know.
The secret is you just really gotta like, what is that? You said you like Elon Musk. He said entrepreneurship is like chewing glass and staring into the abyss. That's you. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel like that. Like, it feels like I'm not the type that I'm going to self-sabotage if things are going too good. I think there's a lot of friends and people I know that are successful entrepreneurs that literally just like, it's getting too easy, I'm having too much, and they'll like, I don't know how, they'll shoot themselves in the foot. Like, luckily I don't have that toxicity with it, but I like the grit of it. I just generally not even just, it feels like you're doing something, like when everything's rolling and all the market's good and appreciation, like that's pretty boring. And to me, at least, but to answer the question, it's a hard question because I'm trying to isolate it. Like it's multifaceted. I think looking at everything individually and not getting overwhelmed, I think would be the answer I'd give. Like, and just staying true to it. Like the margin thing, like a big thing is margin compression with Zillow. Zillow's a great partner. I don't know if that's what we're getting today, but I'm a huge fan of Zillow because I love the consumer. And I love what Amazon did. Just a slight rabbit hole, but I remember being a kid. I came from a semi-conservative family, Christian family, and they hated Walmart, man. My stepmom, I remember as a kid, like, Walmart's so bad for the small business, and she'd always be on some kind of tangent about it. And I'd go, yeah, Walmart's a bad guy. Like, I hear that. Like, you're an impressionable kid. And then as I got older, into younger 20s, and I see Amazon starting to rip, and now just in my 30s, I'm seeing Amazon finally surpass the revenue of Walmart. And I go back and look at the historical of that, and I'm like, well, if you really look back at the thing, our great grandparents used to have to go to a food store and then to a material store and then a lumber store. They had to go, like, whole Sunday was a 6-hour adventure to get all the goods for the week or the next 2 weeks. And then Sam Walton came in and created the first supermarket, or maybe the second or third supermarket, and revolutionized and said, now great grandparents, you only go to one place, you do it in an hour, 45 minutes. It revolutionized convenience to the customer. A lot of times I think in industries we inconvenience the customer and we get mad that results aren't happening. And then you look at Amazon and they said, Walmart, that's nice. You have to go and drive and you sit in long checkout lines. I'll one up you. I'll deliver it in 2 days or less. I'm going to create grocery and I'm going to streamline and give consumers time back. You can't get mad at Amazon for being successful. They reverse engineer consumer ability and giving consumers back what other companies can't, and that's time. And so I think in the same way, I like Zillow is the point of that. And I think I focus on the consumer. So a lot of what we do is focusing on the consumer because I believe that works. And if you do that, it's like, sure, we want Zillow to work, but oh man, they want 35% of our revenue. Oh, now they want 40%. And I'm on a split where my agent wants 50%. I know there's a lot of teams out there that take like 10 for 15% margin on these Zillow deals. But the problem for us that created a new problem is if I accepted that, I know agents have to do more, especially you mentioned the DOJ, a lot of that. I believe, and we've preached this for about 1.5 years, 2 years, and we tell our agents transparently, you will do more deals for less money in the next 36 months and beyond. And that's not because I'm making more money. We're very transparent about our profit margins and our revenue targets. Like, we don't hide it from our agents. It helps when you're on a growth mode, not making a lot of money. It looks a lot, like it's really transparent. If we were making, oodles of money, I'm sure it wouldn't be as well received, but it is if you start with transparency from the beginning. So I've always liked how Keller Williams did that back in the day. They always had kind of an open book model. I think there's success to that if you're trying to build a big community of people. So our mantra, Grant, has always been consumer first, but we know agents have to be involved for consumers to be happy. Like, there is a very big important that. And everyone has to get their cut of money. But if we're not strong in how we handle these changes, when you have to do more transactions to make the same amount of money, you're doing more work for the exact same paycheck. If I'm going to ask you to do that and I'm not going to give you more money and I have to control our own margins, I have to reinvest in you as the agent. And so we've done that. We've created internal, we call it the ACE team, concierge team. So all of our appointments are, post-appointment, we have, VAs that call, hey, what happened? We intake it. We CRM manage for them. We fill out all their portals. Like, our agents have never updated Zillow, HomeLight, like, they don't do any of those updates. All the admin work we do. We write their offers now. We schedule all their showings and navigate with listing agents and coordinate them, send it to the consumer. So it's like, how much of your job can we fire you from? And not to just push you out of the industry, but the industry is telling us from a margin perspective, you have to do more work to make the same amount of money. So if you're going to do more work, how can I help you do that more efficiently? And so if we always focus on each of our buckets, we have two consumers. We have our agent consumer and we have our consumer that's buying or selling the property. And that, as a real estate team, you have two focuses. And so it's trying to create a blended focus to make sure both are satisfied, but really keeping it real with our independent contractors. I think I told you in the pre-calls, I look at it like we're venture capitalists, not teammates with our real estate agents. And I think that keeps us in a really true perspective of how we have to manage expectations, margin, standards, all the things.
Explain what that means to somebody that's listening to this. Like, what do you mean you treat this like you're a venture capitalist? Because most of the people that are watching this aren't that, and maybe don't even know what that is.
Sure. So I remember when I came in, we had a really, really strong sales manager, and he was the type that led from the front. And like, this is how we do it. And still today is our strongest agent. He was just in the leadership position at the time. And one of the hardest things with the team at the time, between Kyle, that person, really the whole leadership, was of this mantra of like, they're independent contractors, we can't tell them what to do. That's the law. And it is the law. I said, okay, that sits well with me from a legality standpoint, but I also don't have to endlessly pour into this person. I'm not obligated to do that. Sure, I can't tell them what time to show up, what time to leave, how to do their job as an independent contractor versus employees. Especially in California, there's a lot of legislation in place for that. So we don't want to, obviously get ourselves in trouble, but there's nowhere in that legislation says we have to endlessly pour into people that don't deserve to be poured into. And so I'm a little nerdy, I guess, and like I've always found fascination in the investment banking world, even though I've never been in it. And to me, the parallel for our industry was we're venture capitalists, meaning what venture capitalists do, for those that aren't familiar, is they go look at early companies that have a lot of propensity for success, whether it be volume, great product, innovation, a lot of different categories. They go find the Ubers of the world, give them the money they need to have a runway to get to their end goal, and then turf profitability. Most people thought Amazon was a joke for 15 to 20 years because they didn't turn a profit, but they were a fixed cost business, meaning at some point they knew that their cost would never increase to get the revenue targets they needed to hit. They'd achieve margin, they'd transition margin, and then they would hit huge profit targets, which Amazon, Apple, some of these are the biggest companies in the world. But venture capitalists are the people that funded these companies from stupid idea by the general public to a realized idea by the general public. And they're the ones that fund that to happen because there's not enough revenue in the company to hit the growth they need to hit without these people. That's who we are for real estate agents, right? Like they come in, it's an idea, I want unlimited time, I don't want anyone to tell me what to do, and I want to make a lot of money. That's what people getting to real estate agents want to be. Our job is to correct that way of thinking, find the real talent in that group, and help them become what they want to become and why they got into this, which is truly to create, unlimited income for themselves. I'm not here to make them work unlimited, little as time as possible and have no accountability. I don't subscribe to helping them do that. But I will help you with your financial goals that you got into this for. And so how we changed our thinking in leadership, Grant, is we said, okay, if we're venture capitalists, I'm going to give everyone that I put through my recruiting process, my training process, the belief that you can have success. So I'm going to invest a little bit in you. That might be training. Today, it's a little bit, because we've had success, it's a little bit more training heavy on helping them work self-gen leads. 2 years ago, it was giving them a allotment of leads and seeing how they did with them. But as we've had success, we've been more stringent on our loans and how we pour into agents. We say, we have a lot of value in training and structure. We're going to see what you can do first, then we're going to invest more money into you. At the time, we're spending thousands of dollars in Zillow leads, Ylopo, Google AdWords, you name it. And it's like we're just giving it to them and hoping to see what's happened. Sure, but it can't be endless just because they're independent contractors and we can't have no consequences. So that's where we started to say, hey, we created a quartile system. If you've done 3 to 4 deals in the last 90 days, here's what you're expected to show up for: huddles, role plays. It's very heavy on participation. Because if you're not hitting the financial goals for us and you that you wanted to, I don't believe that you need independence. You need structure. And here's the rewards you get in that tier. And then all the way up to our platinum level, hey, if you're closing 9 to 12 in a rolling 90 days, show up for 1 huddle a week just so I see your nice face and smile a little bit. But the other 4, screw it. You do you. You manage your time how you see fit. I trust you to manage. And then downward, you get listing appointments, higher price point leads, and that follows. And so it's equitable. I don't believe in fairness, Grant. I believe in equitable solutions. And so what's equitable is regardless how long you've been here, how much I think you know, how much Kyle likes you or doesn't like you, you control your outcome by units, not volume, and how many you do in a rolling 90. And that's the amount of requirements you need to show up for to stay in good standing with our team. And this is the amount of rewards you get, and you self-drive it. And most of our internal structure is driven on that premise of I see what you do and I react based on what you put out. Nothing's entitled.
I love it. I love what you said. I don't believe in fairness. I believe in being equitable. I think that's
I hated it in the military. The reason I didn't have a 20, 30-year military career was I saw a lot of people that were not as smart as other people I saw, and they were in lower positions or higher positions than some of the more intelligent decision makers. And that's because the military is a time and grade, time and rank merit system. And I think it's a really poor system. It makes sense in a hierarchical system, but I don't think it's good for business. And I think a lot of businesses might run that way. But I think talented people have the ability to shoot up a lot faster than average or even low talent. And you got to create an environment where your best talent can, shoots and ladders. I used to make that joke internally. They can just cross the board and go. Like, you got to create those opportunities for your rising stars to do what they do and move up the ranks.
Especially in sales. I mean, this is one of the greatest professions, no matter what it is that you sell, because you are in complete control of your future in almost every case. My brother always said that. He's like, it's one of the reasons I love sales, because I can control how much money I make based on how much I'm willing to go out there and work in the marketplace. And I love that your model incentivizes that behavior, because I think I agree, it's the way that it should be. Switching gears just a little bit, I know we're running out of time. We met a couple weeks ago and we talked a little bit about homes.com and Zillow, and we ended up talking about like 15 other things that should have been a podcast in and of itself. But as you're watching what's happening in the real estate market, you're seeing companies like Zillow who have dominated the attention game, and you've got these what some people are calling portal wars, which I don't know that they are, technically yet. But what is it that you think that agents can learn from these conglomerate of companies that are taking action in this space that they could apply to their own businesses to have success?
Oh yeah, I'm glad I plugged my passion for Zillow before I'm saying this. Maybe it gives a little perspective, but they just start by watching. If you don't like Zillow, or you don't feel like you have a full picture of what Zillow reverse engineered and was built from, go watch Rich Barton and Guy Raz on How I Built This Podcast. And Guy is a phenomenal question asker, great interviewer. And he interviews Rich Barton, the CEO and one of the founders of Zillow. And Rich will talk you through the story of how, from getting the name Zillow, he also started Expedia and Glassdoor, and how they reverse engineer. I'll give you the short version of it, but basically he was frustrated. He's a Microsoft guy, worked under Bill Gates, had a strong position there, and he used to travel for Expedia and would hear someone on the other end typing away as he's trying to solve his problem. And all of us as high D business owners in real estate, I think, can relate to this frustration. When you feel like someone's slowing you down and you can do it better, what do you want to do? You want to jump on the other side of the computer and do it for them, right? And that was Rich. He said, why am I dealing with this to book my travel when I should have the same access? We have the web now. This is 2003 probably. We have this thing called the internet. Why can't I just build a database that can give transparency to this? And then I'll sell some ads on top of it and make a revenue model. He did. He exited. Zillow the same way. He made all his money. He exited a couple companies, left Microsoft. Guy's balling. He's got a lot of money. He wants to buy a sick house in his new area. He's talking to a real estate agent, won't answer his phone. They call back. He doesn't know any of the inventory around. Doesn't know if it's worth what they say it's worth, because he has no comps to be. He has to rely on this individual to give him a CMA. Everything's a game of cat and mouse. How much money do you make, Rich? How much money's in your account? Like, think 2005 era of real estate agents, unevolved, and it's all this friction, like so much friction to get anything done. And so he's like, fuck this, like this MLS data, how do I get access to it? Like, everyone demonizes it, but if you really listen to this and hear it, like, it's reverse engineered because that's a consumer first. Rich was like, this is bullshit. This sucks. And I said, why don't I just expose it? And then now let's fast forward to 2022, 2021, like Flex starts to really ramp up their model a little bit. And they start this ALM model, which is all based on appointment. Go to the appointment, find location, what's motivation. And they want you to get to appointment. And you get to appointment because we know what is NAR statistic, Grant, hasn't changed in 20 years. What is 65 to 72%, somewhere in there, all throughout the last 20 years, of people work with the first agent they meet on the buy side.
I think it was roughly 82%.
82 now?
It's like 72% of people that they talk to, and then 80-ish% of people that they meet with.
So there it is. So we know that, right? And it hasn't changed. This has always been data. So this company said, that's the data. Oh, I'm selling leads to people that won't call them. Okay. And I use the DoorDash example for helping people understand this. Is like, guys, like when you order off DoorDash, if I ordered Italian, I ordered chicken parm, right? For my wife and I got it to DoorDash, my favorite Italian restaurant downtown. DoorDash delivers it to me, and it's all upside down, looks like shit. It looks unappealing. Do I never order DoorDash again, or do I never order from that restaurant again? It's the restaurant. I blame the restaurant. The driver might have handled like shit and ordered it 15 minutes late, but I'm just not getting DoorDash from that restaurant because I believe I'll have a better opportunity to DoorDash another one. That was what Zillow's experienced with the agent buying leads. And they couldn't have a reputation deficit that they couldn't control. And so they moved to a margin model. And they say, hey, we're going to become the broker. By the way, if they make 35% and I'm on a 50-50 split and I make 32.5, who's our broker? By proxy, Zillow's my broker on those leads. It just is. But I don't think it's all demonic, Grant. I think the lesson learned that I've learned is that they did it with consumers in mind. And the consumer, go get an Uber. Every Uber, no joke, I get almost. My wife probably hates it. I was asked, hey, do you look at houses for like, I just kind of somehow get into real estate. I don't care about a referral. I'm not asking for that. I am so obsessed with where do you look at homes when you look? It's always Zillow. No one's saying realtor.com. No one's saying Redfin. No one's saying homes.com, CoStar, Zillow. Because they have transparency first. So if everyone's searching there, and why? My question is back to the whys. Why do people search there? Redfin to me is a better search experience. I think it's a better app. But Redfin's also not in most states in the Midwest and some of the rural areas. They haven't even expanded there. So I think that's the thing that I've copied is how do we reverse engineer a consumer experience that makes people want to frictionlessly work with us? And so it's about removing friction. So if our agents are asking questions, about lenders before we meet someone, it's like, why are we doing that? On listing appointments, if we're, trying to overcome an objection, like their family over the phone, like, hey, I have a family member that's an agent. It's like, why are we creating friction trying to like just go meet them the first time, wow, and surprise and delight them, show them your experience and what you have in your tool belt, try to reverse engineer the ability to have success with the consumer.
I think those are some great lessons. The big thing that I pick up on when you're talking about this is like, you've got to care about the consumer more than you care about literally anything else. If you can care about the consumer experience, you can take the lessons from these major companies and you can apply them to your hyperlocal business and you can have an enormous amount of success. I know companies that grow to substantial volume and units, and they don't rely on portals. They don't rely on Zillow or realtor.com or Trulia or any of these portal companies. But that said, Zillow did a masterful job at associating themselves to home search by caring about the consumer experience. These are fantastic business lessons to take in. So you can sit around and demonize these companies. Oh, they're trying to put me out of business. Whatever. Even if they do, like,
I think it's a byproduct. Truly, I think it's a total byproduct of an initial effort of consumer transparency. And also, let's like, if you're low level, I apologize for the offense that I'm about to create. But those of us that are doing high level business, and there's a lot of you, even if you're only selling 10, 15 homes a year as a single agent, and you're dominating in your niche, like that's not it. I am talking the people you deal with on the other side that are completely inept and maybe doing a disservice for their consumers. Unfortunately, I believe, and maybe I'm over exaggerating, but I think 70-80% of licensed individuals in North America are a misrepresentation of what the consumer should experience in real estate. And these portals are exposing that.
What was the number you said? You said 80 what percent?
I'd say 70-80%, I believe, of licensed people in North America are a disservice to the other 30 to 20% that exist.
I think that if you look at the real estate industry's statistical turnover, and I may upset some people listening to this too, but I think if you look at the real estate industry's turnover, statistically, 87% of realtors fail out in 5 years or less. To me, that is a very clear indication that 13% of the industry actually really knows what they're doing. And I'm of the opinion, especially with all of the litigation taking place right now, that we need to collectively raise the standards that exist in the industry. I don't know, I'm putting you on the spot here, you may disagree with me, but if NAR raised their annual dues 5x to cover the exodus of 80% of the industry, I have a suspicion that a lot of the top teams would gladly pay it, because you're talking about collectively raising the standard in industry. If you're listening to this, you're like, Grant, you shouldn't be saying this stuff. You got to support all the agents. No. No, I do not have to support all the agents. I support a standard, which is why I constantly want to interview the best, because I want to learn from the best. It's just why the people that listen to this typically want to be the best. And they're not offended by the fact that, a big portion of the industry probably doesn't belong here. It's a fallback profession in many cases. And it's people that come in here thinking that they're going to be able to strap on a suit and go buy a Benz and do all these things within a matter of months. They don't realize you got to be one of the grittiest fucking people on the planet to sell real estate at a high level consistently.
And you have to do it at such a calm, consultative nature, because the consumer doesn't owe you fuck all. Like their timeline, like we focus so much on timelines and sales talks and stuff. And it's like, what's their timeline? What's it like? Their timeline's fluid. They're a human. Like they might be really ramped up about it today. And then tomorrow, tax bill hits for the property taxes and this happens. Who knows? Maybe it's property tax is a bad example, but something in life happens. And it's like 2 months later, it becomes real again. Like we're all doing that. Like we all have burst of energy towards something we want, and then it's like stuff happened, and then 2 months later it's like, okay, I'm really on that track again, I care about that, and then we're like, buyers are liars, or I'm frustrated, it's about me, I thought that was going to be my really hot lead, I was like, dude, like it's a person. It's just so not like what people make it try to be. And I think back to the portal answer with Homes, I'll plug them real quick because I was cracking up. I probably offended some people. I threw some laughing emojis on different people that were hating on it and like how dumb it was and why would you use this actor? And I was antagonistically laughing at these comments. I didn't even care. I was just like, this is silly. And I said, I'll make this podcast later. So I'll get my homes.com bit on that. It's like they reverse engineered. They knew what their target audience was. Like I think that's the other so important part we talked about in our last one is like they own apartments.com, which people looking at apartments are, typically millennials and Gen Z. I won't get into it today, but there's a really high coexistence of these two communities that no generations have ever had so much overlap as millennials and Gen Z, mostly because of social media, TikTok. Our social trends and likeness are very overlapped. So what Homes.com to me did is they found one of the most, during COVID, Schitt's Creek got huge, became a huge show. Everyone liked it. And so you went and got one of the stars of the show that's very well liked to be your face of the brand or your new rollout of your acquisition of your domain. And you rebranded HomeSnap, which pissed everybody off of the agents because it was for them. And then they said, hey, we're going to focus on a search portal for consumers. We're going to find a strong representation of that audience.
And what I think that we talked about this too, is like they built a bridge from apartments.com to homes.com, knowing that a lot of the people that are their target audience are millennials who maybe found a place on apartments.com. And so they've got trust, they've got credibility, they've got relationship with that audience. So when they start to build a bridge over to homes.com, I think you'll see success.
And it's a subconscious bridge. That's why it was so smart of them acquiring Homes. Is it was a domain. I call it a domain purchase because my wife happened to work there before they got acquired. And so I knew some of the internal struggles they had, and they weren't very successful. There's a reason no one was buying it. But yeah, to go to apartments to home is a linear progression. I'll predict now they're going to be in a super app eventually like Zillow once they can get away with it. And they're going to, why you have developers working on two separate platforms, it's a bad use of money. Eventually they'll merge into one super app, I'm sure of it. But it's a good progression. The other part of it is we talked about what's the hook. I think they followed Zillow here, Grant. Like there was the information. They played the information game.
Yeah, we did talk about this. Is Zillow has associated themselves to home search. And so that whole play on like we do your homework is, I don't know if it will hit or not.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's going to be successful, but what I'm saying to the industry is you can't call it dumb that they played the long game.
Everybody that is calling it dumb is thinking about right now, and homes.com is thinking about 10 years from now.
Yes, 100%. That's why Gen Z and millennials are the target after the boot. Like they're not playing right now. They know that they can't win Zillow right now. But also going after Lil Wayne, including Lil Wayne in there. That's a great target for millennial audience. They crushed it with their apartments.com marketing campaign last year. Everyone thinks it's dumb, but yeah, eyeballs, and Grant, you're a phenomenal marketer. Like you can't pay people to care. You can pay for their first glance of attention and then hook them with a great value and great offerings. And I think that's where we have to watch if homes.com can truly deliver enough captured value beyond the awareness they're driving.
Going to take some time and money. I just looked because I was curious. As of today, through the month of February, through the 24th, Zillow has 290 million site visitors, while homes.com has 47.9 million home visitors. That's a factor of 6x. And most of Zillow's traffic is direct, meaning that somebody goes and they literally just go to Zillow. They don't go to Google and type homes for sale. They go to Zillow and look at homes for sale. These are such important details that I think a lot of people don't pay attention to.
They probably missed like top 10 most trafficked website for the last 10 years is Zillow over at points, Yahoo, YouTube. Like they beat Facebook before Facebook was as big as it is today. Like they were beating these companies at traffic, to what you're saying, from organic.
Currently ranked number 64 in the world for sites on traffic.
What about in US traffic?
I'd have to go back and look. I don't know if I can find it before.
Yeah. I would bet you they're still top 10, which is insane.
Yeah, that statistic is worldwide. So that they're currently 64 in the world for site rank.
And they don't even have any utilization in any other country. They don't work in Mexico. They don't work in Canada. They don't work in China, right? Like they don't work in Russia. This is a US-based company, only searchable. There's only inventory in the US, and there's 64 in the world. It's crazy. And it's organic. They're not paying for the traffic. Like
a substantial volume. Yeah, they're not paying for a substantial volume of their traffic. They spend a little bit.
So now they can use all their money to invest in product for the consumer.
Okay, we took up a little more time than I thought because you and I seem to be able to have quite lengthy discussions, and I love it. I want to wrap this up by asking you what I told you I was going to ask you when we got started is if somebody's listening to this and they're like, okay, this guy is currently leading one of the top teams in the world right now, and I'm not there. I'm aspiring. Like I want to get there. Take us back 4, 5, 6 years ago. What is that one step somebody should take today if they're in pursuit of building something extraordinary?
My best mentor I ever had, Matt Grander, he was the team leader of that first team I was on. And the thing he taught me, he would always go like this to me. He's like, Chris, you're bright, you're smart, you're looking at these things, they are, but he just do like this all the time. And he just put his hands up like that. He wouldn't even say anything after years of working together, just always put it up. And so to me, that became, and I watched how he'd handle listings and REO contract. And a lot of stuff is like, nothing ever mattered from an emotional perspective to him. Like a deal was blowing up, like, if I do nothing, it's probably not going to blow up. If I try to manage it and manufacture and make the outcome I want to happen, everyone's emotions go up. The other agents freaked out. The consumers were like, so a lot of times I won't respond in 12 hours or even 24 hours. I'll get that, let things calm down, and then go out and approach. So I learned a lot from watching how he'd handle problems, because that's whether it's growth, problems, innovation, like whatever you're doing. If you take an emotional reactive approach and you're looking at all these things that might feel like they matter, it's really hard to ever get traction to go anywhere. And so I'd say just sell out on what you believe. Like don't let units, inner process stress you out from growing the business you're going to lose a couple deals. Like they're going to happen. And if you have a data point and you're measuring and say, we actually lose and fall out a lot of deals. Okay, now you have a real problem. You should address that. But one deal starts to fall out, but most of the time, 90% plus of the time, you close deals you put pending and they don't have issues. Don't take all your energy and resources towards one thing that's going wrong at the moment that's marginalized compared to what actually is happening in the greater picture. And I think that's what a lot of team leaders do, a lot of small, even medium and large size teams. Like it's even a conversation, transparently pull back the curtain in our own organization. Even Kyle and I have these conversations sometimes, and it'll be like, well, why did this happen like this? Who cares? We know how to fix it. We have a solution in place. It's probably 7 things that happened, but I don't have any energy, and neither does the team, to focus on this right now. And so let's just say focus on what we know we're already decided to work on, keep the course. And so for me, that would be my answer, is just everything can be exciting or opportunity or a shiny object or it could be positive or negative. Stay out of those variances, stay on the course you already decided, have some conviction, and just stay there. And let some people get upset or let some things fall that you think might be an opportunity. You can't chase everything, positive or negative.
I love it. I think it's such sound advice right now too. Focus is a damn superpower. And for a lot of real estate agents, it is not the easiest thing in the world to do, because everybody's looking at these influencers where they are today and saying, that's what I want, forgetting that it took them 5 years to get there. So I think this is really, 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 every agent does it, I think.
Our own agents do that too, Grant. With Kyle, like they'll look at me like, oh, he has EXP revenue, he makes all this money from that, or he has social media. I'm like, guys, he's number, whatever in EXP for rev share. One, he's given a lot of value to agents, and that you can't just replicate what he's doing and try to do that. Like I've told people the whole time I've been here, I don't focus on any EXP rev share, because I tell our agents all the time, Kyle's been doing YouTube. He looked like a nerd when he started doing it. Like you got to realize it was not cool to do YouTube in a checkered suit, a plaid suit, when he was doing it. He was being an innovator. And he failed. Gary Vee is a good example. Like they're very similar. Like he did it before it was cool. He was doing it in 2013, 14. You can't just make up that time and expect the same result. So if you're not willing to put 7 years of eating, mud and hope in order to get success, stop chasing and copying people. Do it your path. Like you just can't. It's a great point you made there. Like you just can't pursue other people's results and hope to gain the same things by doing the same thing. You missed the window 6 years ago. It's like me wanting to be $100 millionaire from buying Bitcoin at $1,500 right now when it's at 60 grand. I should have been into crypto then. I wasn't. That's not my boat.
Love it. All right, guys. Chris, thank you so much, man. I always appreciate our conversations. This was awesome. And I know that our audience got a lot from it. So thank you so much for spending some time with me. I know your time is valuable. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Great questions and always great conversations. Look forward to doing it again.
Love it. Thank you guys for continuing to listen to the Grant Wise Show. I know you walked away with a ton of notes. on this one. Make sure you leave us reviews on your favorite podcast platforms. Shoot me a DM on Instagram right now with your questions. Let's keep the conversation going. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Grant Wise Show. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, leave us a review, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks.